Welcome to Lotus Lane Daily. I'm glad you're here. Today's wisdom is for anyone going through something hard. You know that feeling when you walk past your adult child's bedroom at noon and the door is still shut, and you stand there in the hallway, holding a basket of their laundry, feeling a complicated mix of love and fury and guilt and something that might be grief. You didn't plan for this. You spent years imagining the moment they would leave. Not because you wanted to be rid of them, but because that was supposed to be the proof that you did it right, that you raised someone capable of living. And here you are, still making their meals, still covering their expenses, still waiting. If you searched for this article, you are probably exhausted. Not just tired, the kind of exhausted that comes from the same conversation happening over and over, from hope rising and falling so many times you've lost count. From the fear that something is wrong but no one will name it. From watching your friends talk about their kids' jobs and apartments and relationships while you nod and smile and change the subject. Let's be honest about what this is actually like before we get to any advice. The part no one talks about. Having an adult child who won't leave, or can't leave, and even that distinction feels loaded, creates a particular kind of loneliness for parents. You feel you can't complain about it without sounding like a bad parent. After all, isn't this your child? Don't you love them? What kind of person counts the days until their own kid leaves? You do. And that doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you a human being who expected a certain shape to this stage of life, and that shape didn't materialize. The grief of that is real, and pretending it isn't just drives it underground, where it festers into resentment. There's also the financial side, which people rarely want to say plainly. Supporting an adult child who isn't contributing is expensive. It affects your retirement, your relationship with your partner, your own sense of freedom. The math is real. The stress is real. The feeling that your own needs keep getting postponed is real. And underneath all of it, for most parents, is a fear that never quite goes away. Is this my fault? Did I do something wrong? Did I make them too comfortable or not comfortable enough? Did I protect them too much or not enough? These questions don't have clean answers, and the lack of a clean answer can become its own source of torment. What's actually going on? The reasons adult children don't launch vary enormously, and collapsing them into a single cause is a mistake. Some are dealing with mental health issues, anxiety, depression, ADHD, that make ordinary adult tasks feel genuinely overwhelming. Some are in a labor market that bears almost no resemblance to the one their parents navigated at 22. Some have developed a dynamic with you specifically where leaving feels unsafe, or where staying feels like the only stable thing in their life. Some have gotten genuinely comfortable and haven't felt enough genuine discomfort to change. These are different problems, and they require different responses. The anxious adult child who freezes at the idea of calling a landlord needs something different from the one who is simply accustomed to being taken care of. Treating them the same way, all tough love or all endless patience, usually doesn't help either one. One thing worth sitting with honestly: what role has your dynamic with them played? This isn't about blame, it's about clarity. If you have been consistently rescuing them from consequences, they may have learned that consequences don't really happen. If you have been making their comfort more important than their growth, they may not have built a tolerance for discomfort. An old piece of writing puts it plainly. Genuine compassion means not only sharing another's suffering, but also helping them to realize their own strength. Sometimes the most loving thing and the most comfortable thing are two completely different things. What actually needs to change? The first thing that usually needs to change is the conversation. Specifically, what you're actually saying versus what you mean. Most parents of stuck adult children have had 100 versions of the same vague conversation. Hints about the future, questions about plans, gentle suggestions that go nowhere. The child has learned to weather these conversations without them meaning anything. Nothing actually changes. What is often missing is a clear, concrete, non-negotiable statement of what the arrangement is going to look like going forward. Not a threat made in anger. Not a hint. A calm, adult conversation that says, here is what I am willing to do, here is what I am not willing to do, here is a timeline, Here is what happens when that timeline passes. This conversation is hard, and most parents avoid it precisely because of how hard it is. But the vague version of this conversation has already been had many times. It doesn't work. Start with financial clarity. What are you currently providing? Housing, food, phone, car insurance, other expenses. Write it down. Now decide honestly what you are willing to keep providing and for how long, and what you are going to stop. This isn't cruelty, it's honesty. An adult child who has no financial pressure to change often won't change because the current arrangement, uncomfortable as it is emotionally, is functionally working for them. Create a concrete timeline. You need to get it together is not a timeline. By September 1st, you will be paying rent here or living somewhere else. Is a timeline. Vague pressure produces vague responses. A specific date forces a specific response. Address what's underneath if you can. If your child is genuinely struggling with anxiety or depression, pushing them out the door without addressing that is likely to fail and hurt both of you. Is there a therapist in the picture? Has anyone actually named the mental health piece out loud? Sometimes the stuck adult child needs a parent who says, "I see that something is making this harder for you than it should be. I want to help you get support for that. And I also need things to change." Both things can be true at once. Take care of your own life. One of the less discussed effects of this situation is how much it can cause parents to organize their entire existence around the child's stuckness, worrying about it, managing around it, waiting for it to resolve. Your own life deserves to happen. Your own relationship, your own rest, your own plans, not as a punishment to them, but because you are also a person whose life is finite and real. The harder question. At some point in this situation, most parents arrive at a question they rarely say out loud. If I stop enabling this and they genuinely struggle, if they end up in a hard situation, can I live with that? This is the real heart of it. The reason parents keep the situation going long past the point where they want to is often this fear that if they withdraw their support, something terrible will happen, and it will be their fault. Here's what's true. Some struggle is not the same as catastrophe. An adult child who has to figure out how to pay rent may be uncomfortable, may be angry at you, may struggle in ways that are painful to watch, and that struggle may also be exactly what moves them forward. There's something in the nature of growth that requires this, a certain pressure, a certain necessity. A plant that is watered and shaded perfectly will grow, but it won't grow roots deep enough to survive real weather. A modern writer once said something that stuck with me. There are no deadlocks in life. There are only people who have given up. As long as you refuse to give up, you can always find a way forward. That's true for you in this situation. And it's also true for your child, though they may not know it yet. Sometimes the greatest gift a parent can give is the experience of needing to find a way forward. You love them. That's not in question. The question is whether the love you're expressing right now is serving the future you both actually want, or just making the present moment a little more bearable for everyone. That's worth sitting with honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. You didn't fail. You're still here, still trying, still caring enough to look for a better way through. That counts for something. Now it's time to take the next hard step. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. That's the wisdom for today. If something here landed for you, share it with one person who might need to hear it too. Take it slow. I'll see you tomorrow on Lotus Lane Daily.